Live streaming is on.
Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fielka. May 14th, 2021. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Clinton Ignatoff and Will Erokan, two of my favorite people in the world, and they are the Satellite Conductor Supreme. This is McLuhanMashup, where we talk telepathically. Oh, I don't mean telepathically. We talk in layperson's terms about Marcia McLuhan and beyond. And to start with a post-TikTok Clubhouse saying of Marcia McLuhan's, if you are moving at the speed of light, you are already there. So we know you are already here if you're watching this stupid video on YouTube. And if you're not, doesn't matter. Time stood still because it's all happening at once. We're dedicating today's show to Walter Boart. He started the East Village Other and wrote a book called Operation Mind Control. He was born today in 1939. That's 82 years ago, the same year Finnegan's Wake came out. So we're going to start with this whole theme of mind control. It's pretty simple. And you know that Marcia McLuhan would probably be happy if we did a quick tetrad on mind control. So just at first, we'll go round robin. Whatever you think, throw it out the window. We're going for emotion, intuition, and feeling. And it's not why humans invented mind control. It's the environment that it creates that we're talking about. So Will, we'll start with you. What does mind control enhance?
Community.
Community. What a great word. Okay, Clinton.
Hell, it's hard to follow that up. Alienation, conversely.
What was the word again?
Alienation.
Oh, alienation. And yeah, now listen.
It's polarizing.
Yeah, but the thing, it's hard to follow that up. That's first thought, best thought. That's an amazing answer. What does mind control enhance? It's hard to follow that up. Man, mind control is from, okay, next question is, Will, what does mind control render obsolete or displace?
The self.
The self?
Yeah, the individual.
Nice. Yeah, the individual. Yeah, very good. And you guys, if you want to suss anything out, tell stories, anecdotes, say the questions are stupid, please don't be shy. Okay, Clinton, what does mind control render obsolete?
Coherence.
Wow. What's another word for coherence?
Integral being.
Oh, yeah, integral being. Well, we know that Marshall said integral awareness, which is the flip of AI, which is artificial awareness, artificial intelligence. You flip it, it's integral awareness. Integral is a good word. Okay, Will, what does mind control retrieve?
The tribal drum.
Nice. The tribal drum. Will's from the Bay Area, and that's where Mickey Hart laid it out with the dead and said that the drum was invented as a communication device. It's really a great book. He tells all the origins of drumming. Tribal drum. What a great answer. And Clinton, what does mind control retrieve?
Like a folklore of monsters.
Wow. Now notice he said like a, so that's metaphor, like a folklore of monsters. What a great thing. Steppenwolf saying all about that. Okay, now if you take mind control, flip it to an extreme, what is it? What could it be, Will?
Fuck. Utopia.
Nice. Wait, your first word was and then fuck and utopia. All three of those are brilliant answers. Okay, Clinton.
I was going that direction too. Hyper reality.
Oh, hyper reality. Beautiful. Okay, Our friend Duncan has invented a fifth question. Will, if there was no mind control, what would be there? What would it be? Or it's hard. Yeah, it's not replacing it. If there was never mind control, what would be there, I guess?
Chaos.
Chaos. Great. Okay. We need mind control. Okay, Clinton.
Like parenting for a limited duration.
Parenting, suss that out. What does that mean?
Well, parents basically mind control their kids if you'd like, but I mean, eventually the kid has to leave the nest, right? We don't call it mind control, but parenting is always going to be there if we have humans at all, right? So there would be parenting, but there wouldn't be cradle to grave control, which I think is a good definition of mind control here.
Cradle to grave. Okay, we happen to have a parent in our midst. Will, how many years you been a parent?
How many years have you been a mind controller? Sorry.
No, wait. 4 years you've been a parent.
Yeah.
Now, what Clinton says, how do you feel about that?
I don't think that I've quite gotten there yet.
But are you want to? I mean, applying mind control, the word parenting, I mean, just making that, how does that make you feel? Not accurate or
no, I don't think it's accurate. But I mean, also I maybe it could be for some people, but I'm not that sort of a.
If there was no television in your house, do you suspect it would be more accurate? If the world you made for your kids was unchallenged, more so by anything but the communities that you bring your kid out into?
No, because like they're pretty strong-willed,
Mm.
and like my will isn't as strong as theirs to subjugate them.
Mm-hmm.
What an observation! Their will is stronger than yours because you sort of stand back here and observer, like.
Yeah. I'm not trying to like impose any sort of dominant.
And notice, we are what our names are, and your name is Will, so that's pretty good. You mean you can pull back? Have you pulled back that from your relationship with other people, or does it apply with other people and your kids?
Yeah, I'd say it applies with I'm not trying to
everyone.
My will.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because mind is that which we feel. That's where the word mind came from. And it just goes on and on. In the mind's eye is meant as mental vision. And so control is checking the accuracy, verify, or regulate. In fact, the word control comes from against the wheel. And then mind control, when they combine those two words, it meant brainwashing, coercive persuasion, thought control. And so I was thinking of Zappa's line, who are the brain police? What's the difference between the brain and the mind? Start with you, Clinton.
Brain is the sort of language that you use when discussing people as animals or as instinctual beings. And mind is the thing you refer to when you're trying to talk about people as willed or creative or as deeper on the inside.
Good. Will, any comment? What's the difference between the brain and the mind?
Yeah, I'd say like you eat pig brains, right? Or cow brains or something like that. You don't eat a cow's mind.
Nice. One of my roommates used to eat that. Like, yeah, somewhere.
That's gross.
But mind control came about. Mao was 1949 to 76. That's when mind control. And actually, it was a journalist in 1950, Edward Hunter, who you put the two words together, mind control. So this is the big question that I'm always pondering in this regard. And if you guys have anything, to bring up in this whole mind control thing, because I mean, it's a deep subject. Alan Watts said, if we acknowledge our enemy, we empower them. So how does that work with humans trying to use their tools? You know, if we're McLuhan people and we're trying to suss out how our tools shape us, aren't we just empowering what they do to us? Why don't we just let tools be and they'll do what they want? So that's like, if it works, it's obsolete, is a McLuhan line. And then he also said the price of eternal vigilance is indifference. And all he did was say, no, don't have a point of view. Understanding is not have a point of view. So how does that, how do you navigate that? Go ahead, Clinton.
There's so if we assume that the mind controllers are the enemies in this case, then I mean there's probably something very affirming to a mind controller when their subject literally says, "Oh my God, I'm being mind controlled and I can't escape it." That's like positive feedback. Okay, it's working. So if you want to talk about acknowledging your enemies, like that specific line, yeah, that's probably empowering to your enemy to acknowledge that your own captivity, and that gets to the whole argument against technological determinism that I read in books like Remediation, where their argument is basically no, we can't go saying that tech companies are controlling reality, because if we do, that just affirms their power in the techno-capitalist structure, and we're trying to escape that power. So therefore, like the logic is like, so therefore we mustn't acknowledge the realities of technological determinism. It's like, well,
yeah, well, it's a stupid thing I'm asking, but it is interesting. How much are we going to acknowledge what our tools are doing to us, and then that empowers their control over us?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you become hyper focused on it, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like you'll start to see it everywhere, and then you'll start to make it happen. Basically.
Mm-hmm. Right, but don't start talking about it until you found a way out of it. How about that? No complaining about the problem. It's sort of like when there's a vulnerability in like computer security. Let's say you find some new hack, and then you're supposed to go and tell the software developers about it privately and disclose it so that they fix it before the whole world finds out, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's the white hacker ethic. Is if you find a security flaw, is to get it fixed before you go and tell everyone so they can take advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's called white hat hacker.
Yeah, that would be an ethic of the white hat hacker. It's kind of like wizards, right? It's very Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Or cowboys.
Or cowboys.
Like cowboy movies, right?
Right, that's true too. I immediately think of like Final Fantasy and stuff, but
it's like westerns.
But yeah, the white hat's a good guy, the black hat's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But Will Clint suggested one thing. How do you handle it without, because you're a researcher, you find out a lot, you're a pattern recognizer, you guys understand that sussing this stuff out, this hidden psychic effects, is to your advantage, or you wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, stuff that makes you nervous. I would say, like, don't spend too much time obsessing about it. If all it's doing is making you nervous,
right? And that goes to feeling. That's shaping your human behavior.
Yeah,
but I mean, when it comes down to the mind, as opposed to the mind, the brain is like operating on. Like Clinton says, well, what can we do about it? What's a strategy? Don't say anything. That's mind. But I mean, that's brain. But mind is more like consciousness. Oh, that's feeling. Oh, I don't want to stress on it. So then you go, how do you deal with that? Though, you don't stress. I mean, that's easy to say, but it's still affecting you. Or you don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, try to think about something else until a solution appears.
Mm-hmm. Right, until a solution appears. That's Gregory Bateson says, pay no attention that I'm lying to you.
And I feel like also the thing the something else that you should be thinking about instead, you don't even know what it is yet. You haven't discovered it. All right. Like there's so much stuff in the world that you could know or be aware of or think about or get lost in, that it's sort of like when kids think about what they want to be when they grow up, they can only name the 4 or 5 jobs that they know exist, which is, like school teacher, firefighter, and now celebrity YouTuber. Right?
Yeah.
So those are the only 3 things, or whatever their parents do, right? The only 4 jobs in all of existence that the kid can even think of as to what they want to be when they grow up, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to distracting yourself from obsessive thoughts, it's like you got to go plunge into something alien that's going to give you a whole bunch other alternate rabbit holes you haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, that's they did sustainability was the big one. I'm going into sustainability, and that's what media ecology is. You're discerning, and you're sussing out how your environment affects your organism. But I like the other one is I want to be a vet, because kids like to play with pets. So they're like, you mean I can get paid to play with my cat and dogs? Wow, I want to be a vet.
Yeah, that's exactly what the job entails.
That's a great scam job. But now I talked to these students at Otis Art School the other day. I says, what do you want to be or do? What are you aspiring to be or do? And this woman said, she said, I want to be famous and make a lot of money. And she was a musician. I said, in the old days, we used to say, I want to be a musician, and fame's the worst thing you want to ask for. But in talking to her for 90 minutes, she was really well grounded in doing tetrads and sussing it out. And it's sort of like that's how they word it. They just say that fame and money, because that's, and it was sad because I felt sad, but in the long run, I felt, no, she's a singer, songwriter, and probably it doesn't matter if she makes money or becomes famous, but that's the wording she said. So, I don't know. This is just how I sussed it out, with these like 8 students, and they were all coming from, they wanted to be film editors or graphic designers or PR agents and work on advertising. It was like an advertising class. They were Then they brought up their favorite recent commercial and they showed it, and we sort of psychoanalyzed the commercial, like what are they trying to sell or whatever. But again, you guys can take this wherever you want. I don't want to control it, but it's more like this. Is it more the tool that controls us, or more the human's use of the tool? That's the big question to me. I know it depends, and there's a million ways to suss it out, but Will, what would you say? I mean,
in the end, I'd say it comes down to the human. It's not really. It's kind of both.
Yeah. No, but
and the third thing too, which would be like,
what's the third?
Like society.
The what?
Society. Like everything else around you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like the tool is going to be set up to do one thing, and that's going to make the human react in that way. But they can also kind of control how they respond a little bit to it, possibly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really saying that much.
No, but that's good. It's all right. The thing is, that's 3 factors: the human, the tool, and you brought in a third factor, which is the society. Yeah. And so that was good. No, don't worry about saying much. We're not here to say anything, Will. We're here to have fun. Yeah. And anyways, just throw out anything, because I want it just to have fun. But Clinton, what would you say? Is it more the tool or more the human's use?
Yeah, I've got a few hard and fast rules that I use, and one of them is never ascribe agency to immaterial matter. So tools don't have intent. Tools don't do anything. And what they do is the intention of the designer who designed them to fulfill a role and for a use case, right? So if a tool has an intention, if your smartphone is designed to suck your brain into it, it's because a lab full of psychologists 10 years ago, 20 years ago, did a whole bunch of, testing to try and make it, learning how to use this phone so easy and intuitive and such a great flow state of constant learning that you can run straight into it super deep and integrate it so quickly into your life that you lose your detachment from analyzing what it is that you've done. Society is exactly on point because society never tells you the nitty-gritty details of how any of these tools work or what they are. Think about how long cinema was around before we started getting self-aware movies about making movies, right? When did film get reflexive to where there were movies which were all about life on a film set? And
Pretty quick.
Right?
I got a good response.
How long is pretty quick?
I will tell you how quick. 1914, Charlie Chaplin made his first film in Venice, California, called Kid Auto Races, and he's disturbing a soapbox derby. He's playing around, and there's cameramen shooting it, and he turns to the camera and mocks them.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, Will's right. It happens soon, but you're saying like deeper.
Yeah, that's production.
Yeah.
Right. I'm thinking movies like that where the audience becomes intimately aware of every stage of the process of the medium that they're watching.
Yeah.
I mean, Man with a Movie Camera is one example.
Yeah, Man with the Movie
29.
Camera is 22. That's a good one.
Good.
That's Russia. Yeah.
Mhm.
Really good example, Will. But it is.
And then what's his name? The American filmmaker. Griffith. Yeah, he had something about taking off your hat in it was like a trailer that they ran before a movie, and it was like a little sketch about being in a movie theater.
Nice.
And like taking your hat off. Yeah. That's kind of reflexive. And I think they saw themselves on the screen or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's examples.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No, there are. It's a heavy thing that you brought up because it's like the first films were like people leaving a factory, and that's all they were doing, or the train coming at the people. So I mean, it is the history of the medium is Nippian satire in essence, but at the same time, it wants to be an escape mechanism where you go into another world, and then you're not living in the world you're supposed to be. You're a consumer of this dream world in cinema or a book, or you're staring at the campfire and they're telling tales.
All right,
or Herzog's dream of Cave of Forgotten Dreams. They just stared at the walls and did Plato's Cave, and the shadows on their scratching on the wall made them do something. But
that's
it's
perfect, actually.
But it's a good point, Clinton, because it's like 8.5 or Day for Night Truffaut, where they were saying, okay, we're making a movie. I know, sorry to go on, but this guy is a really prominent experimental filmmaker in England. His name's John Smith. And he said he didn't know how films were made really until he saw Day for Night by Truffaut. He goes, he just went to the movie theater and surrendered himself to the act. So go ahead, Clint. What you were saying was good until we shot you down.
No, that's great. That's fine. I'm happy for the counter examples here, because it demonstrates that film can sort of turn itself inside out, and it can be like the illusionist who shows you how what other people are calling a magic trick is really done.
Yeah.
Computers can't do that at all. They're not a storytelling medium, right? Society tells you that computers are like entering into Disney's Tron or like Reboot or right, like the medium is completely invisible to everyone and has been for 40 years. And by invisible, I mean buried beneath the surface of its appearances, right? the dream it casts are the most boring ones in the world. Ooh, there's a yellow manila folder inside of your computer with photographs in it. Oh, right. It's a very, very boring illusion that no one even cares to dig underneath unless you're a real nerd. Right?
I'm a lackey. Clint, I'll tell you exactly. I'm a lackey. I can't use files. It's too confusing. I send emails to myself, and those are my files.
Sure, you make it work, exactly. As long as you got a list of stuff and you can click the name and get the thing, that's all you need, right? But yeah,
right. It is stupid in a way that I don't know the normal way. That I sort of think and someone teaches me one little button and I save a whole bunch of time. But why is that? I mean, now that's a good thing. So cinema's 138 years old approximately. Computers are 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
How this is a good thing. You're saying that, the three things, let's apply Will's three things. Human, society, or tool. Will, which one is in more control for computers? The human, the society, or the computer?
Maybe the computer, but yeah, I'd say the computer in that case.
The computer is the most in control. Okay, Clinton.
Sadly.
As it stands, yeah, the computer is the most in control, which by which I mean the people who programmed your computer for you and gave it all the software that lets you do what it lets you do, right?
Yeah.
Like you can do what your phone lets you do because you installed an app someone wrote for you, right? You're never using the computer, right?
But there's also there's the unintended consequences that the programmer didn't account for, right? And like the programmer isn't the psychologist who made the cell phone or whatever, they didn't get it exactly right. Like they could be wrong about some stuff and other things will happen from that. And they could have been totally wrong. They could have been bad psychologists.
Mm-hmm. And then it's on them. It's on them when things do go wrong, and we scream, "Facebook, fix this thing for us! It's ruining society." Because none of the people with the phones are empowered to do squat about the dynamics, which are so much larger than them, right?
Yeah.
See, that's the technological determinism that I think, right? When you're not in control of your tool, then it controls you, right?
Yeah.
So.
Right, but is that in the long run what McLuhan's saying? Like, understanding is not having a point of view. Don't say that. Just suss out how. Like I say, back to the drama of cognition. Back to mind control, thinking, controlling thinking. In feeling is what mind control is. It's controlling both of those. So if you invent thinking, say humans invented thinking, you bet there's going to be drama. If you invent cars, you bet people are going to misuse them and kill other people with them. Do we have any control? We just say, we got to make laws or rules. Does that it cause us to not engage with the tool even more? And it's control over us,
Just to put it short, the people who know better aren't the ones who get rich creating and selling the thing, which is why you can watch, the Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix, where all these millionaires who worked at these startups go, "Oh, we didn't know any better." It's like, yeah, you were selected to work at the company because you didn't know any better, because people who did know better wouldn't have done it because they knew better.
But it's funny. Will, do you want to comment on that? Because I don't want to.
No. That's accurate. I'd say, yeah.
Because this woman died last week who's an investigative journalist. And does investigative journalism work? Well, she exposed that red dye causes cancer. And the government made a rule: no more red dye in your food, or, put a thing on your thing. So that's like getting control over a tool that humans invent. They don't understand a hidden psychic effect or an unintended consequence. And health-wise, it helps us. then what it does is cause less people to die. And so that is a funny thing. Die and die, D-Y-E and D-I-E. And the funny thing is that what, why humans came about and have tools so that things will go wrong and cause population control. Like we think dying's bad. So we don't want people to die. And then we're overpopulated. So is this the whole, human condition, is that we're going to just create things and then we just got to live with their consequences.
Yeah, we definitely have to live with their consequences.
Right, but can we do anything about the consequences? I mean, that's what it seems as though Marshall's saying, study the hidden psychic effects, like Pound said, so you can cope with them.
Well, okay, so yeah, like my uncle told me this once, that when you're like, if you're a magician, if you're casting a spell or something, you wouldn't want to summon anything that you couldn't get rid of, right? You wouldn't want to create something that you couldn't handle, basically, or destroy. And so like that's a problem with the nuclear bomb, right? It was kind of like we could create something but we couldn't really deal with it. Same with nuclear energy in general. Like we didn't really, yeah, and it could be said too about maybe cell phones or really anything, but you can't really you can anticipate some sort of disaster, but you can't anticipate every disaster when you're creating new technology.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Every disaster, like you can think of like the dams at Fukushima or the dikes or whatever, right? The only thing that could topple these is a once in a century sort of weather event. Well, okay, it happened, right? Or all the pandemic pre-planning in the world and all the advocacy for there could be pandemics, right, at any given time, right?
Yeah,
right.
There's plenty of people crying about the next possible thing, and yet right, the level of proactive, like it's almost like we don't have the budget to be proactive on anything, or the political willpower, or the political appeal, or something like this, right? Collectively, for who we're going to vote for.
But you could say like self-driving cars, like you can anticipate the self-driving car accident pretty easily,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
So until you can figure that out, don't release it to the public.
Yeah,
maybe.
Mm-hmm. Or at least
this is really interesting you brought that up, because my brother's in the auto industry and it has been for years. And I say, when do you think self-driving cars will come about? He goes, they ain't going to come about in a long time, because it just gives the auto industry press to keep you attentive to them.
Yeah.
And so, how many people are killed by cars normally is huge. And then if one self-driving car accident, they make a big deal out of it. But
yeah, well, so I used to see them on the freeway when I was driving to work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the Bay Area. I'd like before, eventually they started to label them. They'd say Google car, but I started to recognize them before they were labeled, because they had the LiDAR on top. I was like, something's weird with these cars. They just kind of look like normal cars. And I remember seeing a guy, and he was like on a laptop in the front seat. Yeah, like
wow.
And I was like, this is fucking weird. And then maybe like a year later, they started to say Google on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and that was like in 2012, 2010.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
That's a long time. I mean, it is amazing that computers have only been around for 40 years, is what you're saying, Clinton. You mean home computers is 40 years old?
Specifically.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just stay on that for a second. Will, you sort of articulated a strategy. You said don't obsess on it. But what's another strategy you have for coping? How do you cope with the things? I mean, you seem, you're doing well. You're, stable and it seems like you're doing fine. But how do you cope with the things of tools that you don't like, besides not obsessing?
I mean, you kind of learn about things and metabolize them, and then
What's that word mean? Metabolize.
like consume them, and like you burn them off. Like you read about them and you burn them off in your mind, and then it doesn't really matter anymore. Like when, at least for me, so, I'll kind of get nervous about something and read about it, come to terms with it, and then continue.
That's good. You come to terms with it. I like that. What's a strategy, Clinton, that you use to cope with the hidden psychic effects?
Yeah, it's a lot like exposure therapy, sort of what Will means by consuming and metabolizing stuff and burning off the energy. The funny thing for me is that I've always been a computer nerd. And so my entire mindset has always been, stay safe. Like, it's because you start when you're a kid. And so there's all these rules when you're on the internet as a kid. Don't tell anyone who you are. Don't give away personal information. Don't put your photo up. Don't trust anyone, right? Don't go talking to like strangers in chat rooms all day and making friends with weirdos who, right? Blah, 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 blah. And then social media comes along and everyone does every unsafe thing they could possibly imagine overnight and blast all their private details everywhere, and you can go and creep, as we call it. So let's say you're at a bunch of people hand in some resumes at your job because they want to get hired, and the first thing you do is you sit down and you creep them on Facebook and you go see what kind of person they are on the internet to know whether you want to even call them up for an interview or not, right? So everyone's like identity in the flesh is like sort of superseded on a societal level by their online branding or their online persona, right? I mean, I tend to try not to do my opposition research, I was going to call it, but it's not always my opposition. But if I'm like going on a date with someone, I'm not going to sit there and scour and create a psychological profile on them for like 6 hours that I know who it is before I meet them. I just want to meet them, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We'll figure out who the hell you are, like the natural, old-fashioned way, by talking to each other. which is not to say that I don't expect people to look shit up about me, and I have no idea what the hell I look like on the internet to someone who was going to come along and try to figure out who I was before they met me. I have no idea how the hell I'd come off, right? But that's just right. So yeah,
it's good. What are you going to say, Will?
Oh, it's like looking at your presents before you get them, kind of,
God, that's amazing. I used to do that. I knew where my mom hid the Christmas presents. She assigned me to be the wrapper anyways. And so I would know. That's an amazing thing. Know the present before you unwrap it. Well, what's the disservice to that, Will?
It's a bummer and it's awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. And wow, that was heavy. So this couple other little questions is mud sometimes gives the illusion of depth. That's a McLuhan line. What's the new mud? What did he mean by mud? And then what's the new mud?
Well, I mean, you could say that with like reading continental philosophy or something like that. Just like filling your head with kind of bullshit, and then you can regurgitate it, and people don't really understand what you're saying, and then it sounds deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're saying that's what he meant, that mud, or you're saying that the new mud.
That's what I'm doing lately.
Is continental philosophy?
Or like, reading stuff like that. And it's basically just mud that I'm filling myself with to like, provide an illusion of depth.
Also helps you hide from predators.
Yeah.
Provides the illusion of depth. And then what's the service of providing illusion of depth?
I guess you can hide from the predator.
Nice. And then who's the predator?
Well, like in the movie The Predator, they coat themselves with mud, right? That's what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you can't see the heat sensing. But
Great metaphor, though. I think it applies in a metaphorical sense as well, though. I mean,
yeah.
smart sounding people throwing off flack to well, that's the thing. People don't want to be vulnerable, right? Their social anxiety is overwhelming, and all their effort is going towards avoiding the anxiety of being vulnerable and open and being perceived for how shallow they feel. So then you cover yourself up with mud, be able to throw out some continental philosophy catchphrases, throw everyone off.
Yeah, I'm amazed by that word vulnerable. I cannot even pronounce it, but it seems as the dominant human condition. Okay, Clint, what did McLuhan mean when he said mud sometimes gives the illusion of depth, and what's the new mud?
That's great. I hadn't heard that. I'm trying to think of it in the illusion of depth, in the perspective painting sort of way, but I can't really feel it out from there.
Well, it's like if you look at like a pond and it's muddy, you could think it's deeper than it really is, right? Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I guess sometimes it could end up being quicksand, I suppose. But
Yeah.
but for the most part, yeah. You suspect it's deep, yeah. So mud being opaque, right? I guess that's the primary.
Opaque, but also malleable. Kind of.
Right. Full of potential, as of yet unfelt.
And then what would you say today is the new mud, Clinton? What gives the illusion of depth now?
Oh, world building. I'm sorry. So let's say like J.R.R. Tolkien was a pretty novel, innovative fellow, creating Middle Earth and the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion, right? And then by the time the 90s roll around with tabletop RPGs and stuff, absolutely everything is world building, right? You got Babylon 5 comes out and it's this entire universe in a 5 epic thing. Right before that, you know, like Star Trek's a huge universe, obviously. But now everyone and their mom wants to create an entire universe, and especially video game, open world role playing video games, which I enjoy from time to time. Yeah, they're the new mud, where mud means multi-user dungeon.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Multi-user dungeon.
That's funny.
Okay, so that was really good. What, this staying on mind for a second, this woman, Julia Galef, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she released a book called The Scout Mindset: Why Some People See Things Clearly and Others Don't. So it's similar to saying, well, some people see the surface and some of us are deep sea divers. We're doing tetrads and uncovering the hidden psychic effects of things so that we can cope with what we don't like. I mean, that's sort of the formula I've heard and sound with people who talk about McLuhan, that there's something a little deeper, deep sea diving, that we can pay attention to, that, you can just roll along on the surface and that's fine. But if you go a little deeper, then maybe you can cope, or like Will was saying, you don't have to obsess with it as easier. Some people have tension. They're obsessed with, oh my God, my cell phone's bugging me, but I have to have it, super glued to my hand every second. And they don't go, oh, well, I'm fine with that. And that's all right. So here's the key line. She says, evolution has wired our minds to be soldiers, focus on winning, instead of scouts focused on ensuring our mental maps reflect reality. So there's a lot packed there, but I think one is just the word scout. She's saying, if evolution's wired our minds to be soldiers, that's competition. You know, am I going to win or am I going to do better than the next guy? We know what a soldier is, this whole soldier mindset. And then instead, it's sort of like McLuhan saying that understanding is more important than experience. That's what it shapes our behavior. Experience shapes our behavior when understanding should shape our behavior. Instead of scouts, you know, evolution should have wired our minds to be scouts, focusing on ensuring our mental maps reflect reality. You know, I don't even know what that means. You guys can tell me what you think it means, but I thought we could just do, you know, a tetrad on a scout, because it reminded me of the McLuhan joke. The scout is walking the explorer, you know, through the woods, and the explorer looks around and he goes, "We're lost." And the scout goes, "We're not lost. Teepee is lost." You mean, you know, we're not lost. We're the, you know, he anthropomorphized the home base, the teepee. So, you know, scout has three major usages according to etymology. Scout, verb 1, to explore, to listen, to travel in search of information. I mean, that's all what we're doing right now, right? We're exploring, we're listening, and we're trying to search out information. 2, it means to shout. That's scout. Verb number 2 means to shout. And then noun number 1 means to gain information. So if we put scouting, if we're scouts and we put scouting in today's terms, what would you say a scout enhances, Clinton?
Oh, hell. Scouting.
No, it enhances hell.
Oh,
See,
sorry. Yeah. That was my first word.
but you're saying
scouts do enhance hell. They make hell a much nicer place, don't they?
There you go. Okay, Will, what does scout enhance? Now you can put it in the context you want, verb or noun. We invented scouting. Let's just agree, sort of go along with it, that we invented this. Now maybe we didn't invent exploring. Humans might be hardwired to do it. But sort of thinking scouts focused on ensuring our mental maps reflect reality. You know.
Yeah, perception.
Perception, way to go. Okay, let's do a tangent. Is perception reality, Will?
Yes.
Clinton.
Might as well be.
Very good ad. Clinton, is perception reality?
No, but it approaches it asymptotally.
It approaches what?
It approaches it while never reaching it.
Without reaching it.
Without ever reaching it. It gets closer and closer and closer forever. Perception is not reality, though, because reality is an ideal that can't be reached.
Okay, now back to Will. Will, is perceiving more innate or more invented?
Innate.
It's in us innately. Okay, Clinton.
Oh, I agree. Innate.
Okay, Clinton. What does scout render obsolete or displace?
Stasis.
What's that word mean?
Staying still or being static.
Oh yeah, being static. Still. Yeah, some great philosopher says the hardest and best thing is to do is sitting in a room, do nothing. How do you do that?
Yeah, I don't mastered that one.
Have you? How are you at that, Will? Can you do that?
No.
That's hard. That's good. You mastered it. But what's the difference, Clinton, between that and being lazy? Are you saying that's lazy or that? No.
Well,
What do you, I mean, how do you differentiate? I mean, you're saying non-productive still, or you being
Okay, well,
meditatively still?
yeah, there you go. Is the Buddha under the tree lazy? Yes, extremely so.
Yeah. But you're not making
But
a
obviously,
value.
he's doing the work of inspiring everyone else who's too manic to sit down and learn how to be
Right.
tranquil. So clearly, he's doing something. But
Yeah.
it's a pretty peachy
It's-
job, if you ask me.
I always go back to the Bridget Bardot line, which is, when I make love, I don't think. It's like, good luck. How can you not think? You want to surrender and have it as a total feeling experience, but your brain is like, shut. Oh no, our dance teacher says, turn your monkey brain off. Don't think about your next meal or what you got to do. I mean, that is hard. That's all I do. It's hard to turn off thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, Will, what does scout render obsolete?
Mystery.
Whoa, that is a key word. Do you have ESP?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how many people? No, because I have mystery on a topic to study to talk about here. I so often when somebody does that, I go, "Do you have ESP?" They go, "No." I mean, amazing. 80% don't admit it. I think it is something we all have, and it's how do you tap into it, and then how do you admit it?
Yeah. Well, and for that, I mean, I think it's like society telling people that they don't
Uh-huh.
from a young age. Yeah.
Oh, society tells us we don't?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some kind of
yeah.
It's like people can't dignify language like that without feeling like they're like being unscientific or something.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole group of people with the psychology that uses that language, but they're not calling them scientists, and they're not imperial, right? So I can't even dignify that by appropriating their language, even if I do have a second sense and great, yeah, sure. Nah.
Yeah, 'cause you're saying it's considered a pseudoscience?
Oh yeah.
But you
or
would
just like impossible. It'd be like, can you fly? No.
Yeah, that's fun because I looked up fasting once. I looked up pseudoscience because I wanted to know what Wikipedia defines as pseudoscience, and they say fasting is pseudoscience. It's like, what?
Oh.
I'm amazed at what they categorize as pseudoscience. But just to go back to ESP, I think it's intuition, impulse, and hunch. So, Lily Tomlin's writer, Jane Wagner, says a reality is just a collective hunch.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if everybody acts like that's why McLuhan invented the tetrad to be a collective hunch. He says it's a cross between poetry and hieroglyphics. It's like you're not supposed to think, but how can you separate thinking from feeling? You can't do it.
When thinking is defined in the rigid Gutenberg press sort of way of being logical and creating closed systems, if that's your idea of what thinking is, then everything else is supernatural or is magical, or right? It escapes the bounds of what the need to model everything, right? It's what science is wonderful. It tries to model everything, and it never can. And even if it did, humans aren't capable of actually internalizing those models properly anyway. So those models will lay dead on paper or animated inside a computer somewhere with no humans able to, escape them, right? But if you want to actually live and understand other people, you're going to have to learn a whole bunch of wrong thinking stuff just to be able to get inside their head and relate to them, right?
That was good. That was really good because it brought up Bruno. They burned him at the stake for doing that. And Richard Feynman does that. You just read his wiki quotes. It's like 24 pages of, well, science isn't really right, but it's sort of right. And there's a lot of gaps.
Yeah, you should study science. You shouldn't confine yourself to studying science.
Yeah,
but
well,
but the
everyone's just
go
doing the
ahead.
best that they can,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's
That's
never
good.
going to be done.
Right. But that's why McLuhan called the tetrad the new science. Boy, was he trying to pull the wool over our eyes. That was like, great. Here's 4 questions. He was trying to get people to legitimately study what things we invent do to us. And that's why it's so cool, because it is sort of scientific, but in essence, it's not. Okay, let's just do one more tangent question before we proceed on this tetrad. Will, are your observations of humans, are they more thinking beings or more feeling beings? Overall, I know it's both and it depends, but just overall.
Feeling.
Yeah. Clinton.
Yeah, definitely feeling beings. Definitely.
But both of you guys didn't answer. Normally, people go, I think they're more feeling. Literally, that's what usually, and Eric Dugdale would always go, I feel we're more thinking. No, he wanted to flip it, but it's very rare that someone says thinking. But isn't it curious how none of us could say, how can you stop thinking? How can you shut your brain off? Like, okay, if you go to meditation or yoga or any of that, they go, okay, think about not thinking. Stop thinking.
I feel like I said feeling because I'm devaluing all the thinking that people do that leads nowhere, or that's fallacious. Like their feelings are real all the time, but a lot of their thoughts are garbage. So they're more feeling beings because that's actually where the rubber hits the road insofar as them living in society and doing stuff. It's more through feeling.
Okay, then let's go with one more tangent question. Clinton, who are the brain police?
Oh, the CIA.
Whoa! Okay, Will.
Everybody.
Yeah. So, Zappa asked that, and I think the beauty of it is that it could be capitalist CIA or whoever. It could be everyone are their own brain police inside them. And that's the beauty of it, is he didn't say they, he said who are. He posed it as a question instead of saying a certainty, he also said, thank God. No, he said, I'm a devout capitalist. Okay, Clinton, what does Scout retrieve?
Oh, the goods. There's no point in the scout coming back if the scout doesn't have the goods. Or
nice. The goods. What a word. It implies that booty is good, but I mean, booty like a pirate. Like, pirate.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the goods. We got the goods. Yeah. Okay, Will, what does Scout retrieve?
I mean, I think scouting is innate. It retrieves itself.
It retrieves itself. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like probing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it could retrieve like curiosity, something. It retrieves group, the group. I mean, I would just say your answers are fine, but I'm saying my own is it retrieves the group need. Like if everything comes down to this campfire, like the retrieval in tetrads, every subject we've ever picked, the retrieval answer could be campfire, the water cooler talk.
So what does the campfire retrieve?
Well, that's a great answer. That's a
common
great
denominator.
Yeah, and it retrieves this thing called something. I wrote it down. It's a new word they're calling place. Oh, I can't think of it right now, but it's place. Humans need to think of themselves as a place. Carl Andre, the artist, said a sculpture is place.
Okay.
So like you've been to the Ann Arbor Film Festival. It doesn't matter that we're going to see a film festival. It's more so we're going to Ann Arbor, and that's really the essence of it. Like when you go to your work or you go to a Zoom,
Yeah.
the Zoom is the place. It doesn't matter what we fill it up with. So yeah, that was a good answer. Okay, so Clinton, what does Scout flip into when pressed to an extreme?
Settler colonialism.
Settler, what is that in layperson's terms?
Expanding your empire.
Okay, expanding the empire. Okay, Will.
Panopticon.
What is it?
Like global, maybe not panopticon, global surveillance.
Global surveillance. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because the panopticon is more like
what is
you don't know if you're being watched or not necessarily. Right, is the way the panopticon works. But yeah, scouting would flip into global surveillance.
Yeah, that's good. Panopticon is a great word. I want to explore that more. Okay, so Clinton, if there was no Scout, what would we have? What would
a mosaic, a world mosaic.
Oh, that is a great word, mosaic. That retrieves
neat little tribal boundaries, with resonating boundaries between static little tribes, and a wonderful world mosaic, like the world's a giant stained glass window.
I like that. Mosaic is such a great word. It recalls the Watts Towers here in LA, which is all made with broken pieces of bottles and tile.
That's something that they would tell us in Canada as kids growing up. Part of the Canadian national identity is that America is a melting pot, but Canada is a mosaic, and that's why Canadian always comes after the hyphen. Right. So it's like we would say Cuban Canadian as opposed to like an American Cuban or something like this. I don't know. Like there's all this stuff, but actually you can see Marshall McLuhan talking about it in a Television Ontario public access television interview in the 80s when he's describing, oh yes, Trudeau is going to make Canada into a mosaic, and he starts describing like the facets of multiculturalism and stuff. He's like, right, and McLuhan's like, oh, it's a very interesting political ploy. Yes. You're like, holy crap. But it's McLuhan's term mosaic, in used explicitly under that entire collective social ideal. And I grew up in school learning that differentiation between the American melting pot, which was Wyndham Lewis's term. I'm not sure if he came up with it, but so it's interesting.
Yeah, that was really good. Mosaic is a deep word, and it's also what they would describe McLuhan's writing as mosaic writing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Which you got from Joyce. Okay, Will, if there was no Scout, what would it be?
The unknown. The
unknown. Well, that goes with mystery. That was a great word you brought up. So Auden said that the mystery of art is that we don't know if it activates or pacifies us. So that really intrigues me, because as artists, we want to think our work is worthy. But isn't it just a big masturbation? Like, it's just people doing art. So what does it do? But, we want to go, it covers the hidden psychic effects so we can learn to cope with it. Like, there's so many great artists out there doing important things that have inspired us, and we could each go around and say, we have one commonality. We've all studied McLuhan, but there's other crossovers. I know how much Vonnegut was an inspiration, or Burroughs is inspiration to you, Will. But what do you think of that? The mystery of art is that we don't know if it activates or pacifies us. How do you handle that quote, Will? I'm not asking you to agree or disagree, but just how do you suss it out?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's like working out. It's just the activity of doing it.
Yeah.
Sort of creation, right? Is kind of the point of it often. Or the motivation is just to itself.
It's just more the process, you're saying. The process of doing is what's important. It's not
the act.
The act. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
And I don't think that people really understand the effects of it when they're doing it. They don't have to. They're just doing it.
The artists don't have to understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that woman the other day, the student says, well, what do you want to be or do? She says, I want to be famous and make money. But I think after psychoanalyzing her, that was the words she thought she needed to say when she really wanted to say, I just want to play music.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It is.
What was it like? I don't want to play music on the street corner. Is that what she was saying?
No, because at the end I was going, the best thing you can do is go down to Venice Beach and play your music free.
Actually,
and then you'll get a gig, because Mark, who booked me, me and him found a 18-year-old woman playing on the boardwalk, and she's a star now. Yeah. It wasn't because we released her first 3 CDs. It was because she hung in there and, she did well. So it was sort of like perfect lead in. Like me and Mark just stuck a microphone in front of Sunny War and she recorded stuff, but we didn't do anything to really help her career. We just facilitated, And did it lead to it? Who knows? It could have a little, But how do you suss that out, Clinton? The mystery of art is that we don't know if it activates or pacifies us.
Well, maybe you find out after the fact. Right? If you look at art as self-expression, there's things as far as creating art that you're going to learn about yourself that you couldn't speak aloud in words, maybe, that you had to see in your own art. Yeah. And if you're making art and you think see, that's the thing. Well, first of all, actually, when we got back to the merits of being able to sit alone in a room quietly, is that pacification as a positive? Right? Like, are we assuming that pacification is bad and that activism is good? I mean, McLuhan also said, don't just do something, stand there.
Don't just do something, stand there. That is good. Okay, let's keep going. Can you guys go another 15 minutes? Are you okay, Will?
Oh, sure.
I can go like 5 minutes. I gotta.
Okay, 5 minutes. Let's do these. We'll fly through these. This has really been fun. I appreciate it. Okay, screenwriting teacher told me great art, great film is when you can clearly see the intention. Kubrick says the opposite. Great film or great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. How much should intention play in the creative process? Will?
It should not. You should not see it. I feel like
you should not see it, but how much should the artist have intention is the question.
It doesn't even matter.
Great. Okay. Well, Clinton.
If the intention is to have no point of view, which is the same as saying they have no intention, then yeah right. So yeah, they shouldn't have intention, or the intention should be to not have one. Self-abnegation.
You guys are dreamers, man. You should hear how many people answer that. Well, you got to start with an intention. You can't just, like my friend, I used to do the jazz rock fusion shows with jazz funk. He goes, you can't just throw shit and expect it to stick on the wall. And I goes, I do.
Yeah, it will stick. But
like
automatic writing, right? Like
automatic writing. Yeah.
Mhm.
But we know we have aesthetics. The irony is we have aesthetics and we go, well, I like this movie and I don't like that. I like this music and I don't like that. You know, George Clinton said it so well. He said, what kind of music do you like? He says, I like the kind of music that I don't like, so I can figure out why I don't like it. You know, but how much time are you going to spend? My friend taught me the industry standard for listening on internet for a video or a song is 10 seconds. I go, mine's 1 second. I can tell within 1 second whether I'm like, I'm out of here. And I know that's not fair. Okay, so we're back to Julie Gallup. She says, she reminds herself of a tip in her book to take pride in being the kind of person who can change their mind. What do you think, Will, of that statement?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clinton.
It's a way to changing your mind means swallowing your pride.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to sort of kick the pride up a meta level. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, just a couple. Oh, go ahead, Will.
Oh, I think it's hard not to change your mind. Yeah, it's like over a period of time.
Yeah.
It just kind of happens.
No, you got to fight the mind control.
Full circle. But here's a couple of her terms. Just your quick reactions. Motivated reasoning, in which we distort our thoughts to achieve a desired outcome.
Motivate. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, motivated reasoning. We distort our thoughts to achieve a desired outcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
People do that all the time.
People do it all the time. Yeah. Clinton.
Sure. Yes, people do it all the time. It's hard. I realize though that it's an essential, like, for motivation to tip the proportions of what you're emphasizing. We're right to take control of your own motivated reasoning for goal achieving, because otherwise you do just end up sort of in stasis. Like this thing I keep coming back to about stasis is that if you want to look at it in the whole like Joseph Campbell sort of way, right in the book, now the hero with 1,000 faces, the scout goes out into, you know, the chaos or whatever, gets halfway, gets the goods, and then you know, never comes back again. They don't complete the hero's journey, which is to come back again, right? You go out and you find your scout and he's sitting under the tree with his legs crossed going, I found inner peace. I mean, it's a pretty shitty scout, right? For like, come on, man, come back with the goods, right?
Yeah.
So if we look at the scout as having found perception and found clarity out there somewhere, then now it's going to take a whole bunch of motivation to wrestle them awake and motivate them to do all the work of coming back again and fucking up the inner peace they were perfectly happy having by themselves all alone on the mountainside or whatever.
Yeah, I would say watch Lenny Bruce's cartoon, Thank You, Masked Man. Similar to what you were just talking about. It's beautiful bringing up Campbell too, because he came out of Vico, which was a major influence on James Joyce Finnegan's Wake, and the fourth step of Vico is recurso, coming back around. You fall down, you get back up. So just the last question, Will, what tool extends consciousness for you? What's a tool that extends consciousness? So if every tool we invent extends some humanness, you know, I love the eyelid extends our shutter in our cameras. And what tool extends consciousness, Will?
Disassociation.
Wow. What does that tool mean?
I don't like, I'll look back at stuff that I've like written or made or whatever, you know, like later on. And I don't remember doing it. I don't remember anything about it. sometimes, and it's like, and sometimes it's pretty cool. And so I have to, it's like automatic writing or going into a trance or something like that,
Oh, that's another. You must have BSP, because I forgot to bring up Bertolt Brecht, who's a great playwright who lived right here in the Pacific Palisades. Real important playwright. He says, I don't want art that puts you in a trance. I want art that activates you. It's like, well, that's a nice aspiration, but art that puts you in a trance can eventually activate you also. I mean, he's not here to defend himself. He probably suss it out. Okay, that was beautiful. Disassociation. What a tool. You never think of that as a tool. Okay, Clinton, what tool extends consciousness for you?
Anything malleable under my fingertips.
Nice. So tactility. Like, is that what you mean? Like a keyboard?
Like, my bookshelf doesn't extend my consciousness, but where the bookshelf is in my room does.
You got your feng shui right. We can see Camille Paglia, Finnegan's Wake. You got them all.
Having it right there, that helps a lot, right?
Yeah.
I can put it there. That's the malleable attribute of my bookshelf. I can't change its shape, but
Yeah. You guys can't read my book titles, especially when I go like that. But it's been a real honor and a pleasure. Unless you guys got a final comment or a question, this has been truly a great time for me, and I really appreciate it. Will, you want to say anything in closing, or plug anything, or?
No, just thank you for having me. It's been great.
Hey, we loved having you. Clinton, you got any closing comments?
Not anything more than that. Thanks a lot, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really good.
Good talking to you, Will.
Yeah, great.
Can you see next to my pink dice right there? I blocked out.
You lost the. Okay.
I did notice that.
I blocked out the C in Cold Fusion Now. It's Old Fusion Now.
Yeah, I like that. I was looking at that.
So again, it's honored that we dedicated this to the great Walter Boart. Go out and read Operation Mind Control, one of the great books. And in ending our McLuhan mashup, I'll say 2 McLuhan lines. The point of all aphorisms is not to settle for what cute little epiphany they're enlightening you with, but to reword them. So the future ain't what it used to be. Think about how you could reword that one. But we live decades ahead of our thinking. That's a heavy one, isn't it? We live decades ahead of our thinking.
Yeah. So it takes art to catch up.